there's no better way to spend time together to build trust than golf.
Right.
Because you can quickly tell if the person's an asshole or not, if they cheat, if they're a prick, if they have a bad temper. You can find all these things out in 4 hours, oftentimes in 4 holes. And at one point, the car's fishtailing because it's just a sandy road.
Right.
There's no concrete underneath it. So you're fishtailing pitch black at night, and one of our phones finally worked. And I called the clubhouse late at night and I said, "Look, we've been on this road for almost an hour. I think we're lost." And the lady just casually said, "Oh, no. Just keep going another 45 minutes." He's like,
Another 40.
just go another 45 minutes. He's like, you'll end up here. And I'll be if we didn't. I mean, we could have been on the moon for all I knew, but
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special episode of Golf and Politics. 1 year anniversary, and we're coming to you from the Majority Group office. You can see in the background just the incredible amount of golf courses that Rob has played. And I'm sitting here looking at shopping bags full of others that he needs more display cases for. But Rob, it's been 1 year, and thank you for doing this podcast with us. And it's just been a blast.
Yeah, it's been so much fun, and getting to know our producer, Jordan, as well has been a lot of fun. We've had some great guests, some great discussions, lots of arguments, but a couple agreements along the way too, and a lot of great golf. I think in the last year together, we've played Ballybunion, St. Patrick's. We've played Oak Tree National, Prairie Dunes, RTJ, and we've got a lot more coming up this year, like Fox Chapel, Oakmont, Southern Hills, and some good golf. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yes, absolutely. Got some coming up later this month in Oklahoma and potentially in Arkansas, so we're excited about that. But Jordan, I do want to say thank you to you. Bringing you on as a producer a few months ago has been really helpful. And most importantly, I just want to thank everybody that listens. I don't know about you, but I'm always blown away when I'm talking to one of your friends or somebody that I know tangentially, like when we were social media friends. And I saw somebody at the Oklahoma City airport the other day, and the first thing he said to me is, "Man, I really enjoy your podcast. I listen to it all the time." And that's really humbling for us that you guys are tuning in. And we appreciate everybody that has subscribed, everybody that downloads the show, and especially those of you that have shared it with other people and have recruited new people to listen to our show. Our numbers keep improving, and I know our number one goal for this next year is for us to 10x the size of our audience, and I totally believe that's doable. So
Everyone just tell 10 friends. I mean, it's that simple.
absolutely. Well, we did it. A lot of podcasts start, and Jordan, you might have those stats, and we can maybe put something on social media about this. But I remember seeing this early on, that there's just an inordinate amount of podcasts out there. It's a platform that's really increasing in popularity, but so many of them start but don't finish. Just kind of like new businesses that start and don't make it 1 year. New podcasts start, and so many of them just fizzle right away because they don't stay consistent. And it hasn't been perfect for us from a consistency standpoint, but we're now approaching our 50th episode coming up. And our whole goal at the beginning was to do one every 2 weeks, and we've increased that. And I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge that we've had is we're both busy with our careers. This hasn't been a moneymaker yet. It will be someday. It hasn't been yet. But being able to take time to do these recordings and prepare for interviews so that we're not just freewheeling it, I think that's been the number one challenge for me.
The biggest learning lesson for me, having never done a podcast before, was I'd listened to them. I was a consumer of podcasts, and you always just sort of assume that it's like one or two buddies sitting in their living room, just logging onto their computer like it's a Zoom meeting.
Right.
And to some extent, sometimes you are doing it from your living room or your office or wherever, but there's a producer behind the scenes. We pay a consulting firm to work on, media buys and other ways to get this in front of more eyeballs. It's a business, and, more goes into it. And I know you own your own business. You probably heard the same thing I did when I started mine, which was A lot of people who tried and failed say, look, most of these things flame out in 6 months. They either run out of money or they need to go get a real job. And with this, we at least both have our own real jobs. But it is a job. It is something that you need to think about. You need to do your research. I know when we have a debate and I know what the topics are, I take the time to look into it to make sure that the numbers I'm giving are accurate and the arguments I'm making are fair because people pick them apart. And, I'll get emails and comments and text messages, you know, that want to push back on what I say. That's fine. There are areas of disagreement, but I never want somebody to say, well, that number you gave is false
Sure.
or it's not true or you're not. I want people to know that if they're going to debate, they've got to do their homework because we do this for a living. We're professionals at it. But I take that very seriously because in my line of work and lobbying, I always joke with people because lobbyists have such low approval ratings with the public. We're the only people in a
Just above gonorrhea, you said, I think, on one
just
episode.
above gonorrhea and Al Qaeda. But when I go into a meeting, I have to be accurate because if I make a case to a congressman or senator in either party and what I'm telling them is just patently false, and they go and run with it in an interview or an op-ed and get taken to task for it, they're never going to take my phone call again.
Right.
They're never going to listen to what I have to say again. So, it is important for us to go in there and it may be our assessment, but I always encourage them, you know, this other company or this other group is going to tell you something different. Here's what they're going to tell you. Here's why we disagree with it. Here's what they're going to say about what we have to say. Because when you're making an argument, um, you're trying to convince people. And if you want to convince people for the long haul, you have to know what you're talking about. And they have to know that when Matt says this or Rob says this, they've done their homework. They're not giving me bullshit. Um, and they'll take you seriously. And with a podcast, like, a lot of what we say on golf are opinions. You know, two people can play the same golf course and have a totally different opinion on it. And sometimes it can be just on preference, on what type of golf they like or a hole they thought was cool. Sometimes it can be involved in like maybe they felt sick that day or they were tired or they played like shit. Um, we try to take the personal feelings out of that and say like, oh, this was a good golf course. I just didn't like it. And, a lot of these things are subjective, but you learn in golf and politics that two smart people can look at the same set of facts, can look at the same golf course and have two wildly different takes on
That's so true.
what they just saw. And they're both good people and they both know what they're talking about and they just see it differently.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the world go round.
And I think that we can probably afford to throw more personal feelings around when it comes to our golf discussions because it's not to the level of importance. I know one nice thing I think about podcasts and having Jordan. There's been one time, this has happened once. I'm very careful about what I say. And I'm also careful to let people know these are my opinions, not my clients' opinions, because I'm in a different kind of business than yours in the sense of if I say something and I don't want my opponent getting attacked on that issue because I have candidates I represent that have wildly different views on a lot of different issues. My job is not to tell them how to think or what to think. It's to help them tell their story effectively to win campaigns. So I always want to be careful that I'm not saying things that can hurt my clients. And one day I said something about a certain somebody that it wasn't true. And I was like kind of paranoid about it. I'm like, the beautiful thing, this is a podcast. Jordan can edit it. Jordan, edit that whole section out because what I said, it was right in spirit, but the numbers I used were clearly wrong. So let's just get rid of that. And so that's a beauty of having a podcast, not being on live radio.
I had an instance like that where I didn't catch it until after it went on air. And I made a comment about a policy issue that I disagree with. And my business partner, Brad, who listens to our podcast and has been a guest,
I think one of the better episodes too.
Yeah,
Great interview.
great interview. And Brad texted me like the day the podcast was released, and he said, "You do know that we get paid to work on that issue, and you just took the other side of it." And I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Whoops." But fortunately, that client did not listen to that episode.
Yeah.
So
Well, we can
I
always
would've-
go back and fix it too if we need to.
well,
So,
and for the record, Brad works on that issue. I do not. I may profit from it, but I was unaware that we were on the other side of that issue. But so is Washington.
but another thing I feel that's been great for me is that I enjoy having relationships with people that I disagree with. My self-worth is not determined by how you feel about a political issue or who you vote for. In fact, there's part of my heart that at times where I know like, hey, it makes your business more difficult having Republicans in control. So
It
like
does.
from a personal standpoint, I can have empathy with that, but still be confident in my positions and who I am. And I appreciate that about you because we can fight and still be friends. The other thing that I've been really happy about since starting this podcast is I hardly ever paid attention to golf course architecture. I was always more focused on my golf game. And really, our ability to play around a golf is a small percentage of why we should even be playing golf in the first place. There's an art to golf. There's a beauty to golf, of being with friends and enjoying the vision that somebody had to take the land, like at RTJ, to take this piece of land in the late 80s, early 90s to build this championship venue that's hosted some of the most major golf tournaments of the world. It's going to host a professional golf event in June. And to think of the history and all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into making that happen causes you to appreciate the round of golf much more than if you're just focused on whether you're making birdies or bogeys.
Yeah, and it's something I've really learned to appreciate over time. When I was a kid playing in junior tournaments, I would look at the course list of the tournaments early, and I always loved playing country clubs just because they tended to have nicer greens, or they might have Titleists on the driving range. And I wasn't a member of a country club, so it was always nice. They had better snacks. You know, uh,
Blackmore didn't have Titleist on the driving range back in the day.
they did not. Some were yellow, not on purpose. But when you start to realize when you get on a tee box, like the first thing you learn about architecture is like, is it pretty? Is it appealing to the eye? Then the next thing you learn about it is, okay, what's the architect trying to get me to do? Like, obviously, I can fly that bunker at the corner, but if I don't, what's the penalty? If I play out to the right where he's giving me room, is he baiting me to bail out? And then I have a longer shot with an angle where I can't get it close to the pin, and I bring other problems, into play. Do they give you a big green where there's room to hit the green, but you might have been better off chipping because now you have a 100-foot putt over a ridge? But then you start to really appreciate like the art form of it. Because, if you take our club that we played yesterday, for example, they're designing that simultaneously for Dustin Johnson and Bryson DeChambeau and Tiger Woods, Ricky Fowler, and us, and people way worse than us. So you have to have a design with enough options and variety that it's enjoyable for an everyday 15 handicap member who hits the ball 200 yards, and then professional golfers hit it 350 yards. So being able to build that and then also make the course look like it's been there forever is really an art form. And some do it better than others. And I think that what's exciting now is I really believe that we're in a second golden age, golden era of golf course architecture that competes with the 1920s. The Donald Ross, Tillinghast, George Thomas, Alistair McKenzie. We've got this whole crew now that I'm willing to bet I'll be dead by the time we know.
They'll still be talking about Tom Doak.
but they're going to be talking about Tom Doak and Bill Corum, Ben
Yeah.
Crenshaw, and Gil Hands, and some of these younger guys, Brian Schneider, these Tyler Ray, Andrew Green. I think they're going to be clubs 100 years from now, looking at aerial photos from today in topo maps, trying to piece back their course to be an original Tom Doak.
Yeah.
And it's really a great time to be into this because I've now traveled. I recently was in China and Japan and South Korea, and it's just a blast seeing so many new and seeing old courses brought back to life and new courses that are just fun. And the best thing about golf right now is I feel like the new architecture is focused on fun, not just being hard, because anybody can make a golf course hard.
Right.
Like you could hire me and
Well, you can make a golf course harder too.
Yeah.
With growing up the rough, speeding up the greens, making it more firm. I mean, like we played RTJ yesterday, it wasn't nearly as hard as when we played it in October, even though we played the same exact tee boxes from the same yardage. Yeah, it was a little colder and some wind that caused problems, but the rough hasn't, it's still spring, right? The
Yeah.
rough hasn't thickened up. So I wouldn't hit the ball worth a damn off the tee, but it didn't bother me because the rough wasn't a penalty. Back in October, the rough was a penalty,
especially when right now there's still a lot of moisture in the ground from winter.
Uh-huh.
And when we played it in October, if you remember, the greens were
Oh, yeah.
rock hard. And so
If you didn't hit the right spot on the green, it was going to bounce over.
yeah, and we have our bunkers all sort of have flash faces up to the fringe. And so we can tuck a lot of pins right over a bunker. Well, if you're in deep rough trying to land it softly over a bunker and make it stop on the green, that's a tall order. And like, I don't care who you are and what club you're hitting. The example I always give is the US Open at Marion that Justin Rose won. The course was playing 6,900 yards, which is nothing for the PGA Tour or Live, and 6,900 yards, and the winning score was +1 for 4 days.
Right.
And that's because, length doesn't make a course hard for these guys. Length makes a course hard for me, but what makes a course hard is deep rough and
Totally.
nowhere to land it.
When you
and
have to
hard
pitch,
greens.
like literally, instead of, you're not even thinking about going for the green, you're just pitching back to the fairway. It's a one. Sometimes they set up the rough at US Opens that it's a one-stroke penalty every time you hit there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think made the Bryson win in 2020 like really fascinating, because he just
Overpowered.
he was able to somehow hit wedges out of that rough when everybody else was pitching back to the fairway.
Totally.
And just it was a wild time of like he was playing it differently than everybody else. But no, I mean, you start talking about these things and we can talk for hours, but it's really improved my enjoyment of the game and given me a greater appreciation every time. It's an absolute privilege every time I get to step on a golf course and play. And I think it's taken me till I'm 43 years old to really stop and just be grateful every chance we get to play these world-class golf courses. And I hope that our show can showcase some of those for our listeners, inspire them to go out and play some of them, and just really enjoy your time and enjoy this game.
And travel.
Oh, yeah.
It's great to try to play all the courses around where you live. But it's also good, I think it's therapeutic to plan buddies trips for golf. Like I love it. I love having things on the calendar to look forward to see my friends. And we were talking over this weekend that like it doesn't even need to be at a world-class golf course every time we do it, but just having an excuse to get out of the house, get away from work, and get together with your buddies to relax for 2 or 3 days or a week. It really is therapeutic. Like it's the stuff that I look forward to every year. And when you're on it, like you're just laughing the whole time.
And you learn more about the golf courses too, right? Like, because you're around maybe, like if my playing partner's hitting in different spots, you're getting more of an appreciation for the golf course because you're seeing it from another angle from where they're hitting. And
Yeah, and then the thing is, the one thing that you like never remember is what you shot.
No.
Like unless it's like
Well, sometimes,
unless it's like
like really bad or really good.
really bad or really good, you remember. But like the vast majority of times, if you ask me a year later, I have no idea what I shot. I don't care because that's not what I remember. Like I remember, did I like the course? Did we have a great time? And the memories that you talk about from traveling to see these places are more about like the stupid things your friends say than, whether or not you missed a 5-footer to save par. Like, I've made a lot of 5-footers to save par and I've missed a lot, and that's not going to change. Like, that's golf. Like, the people get too worked up over, what they shoot. I do too sometimes, but that's usually alcohol induced. If I'm
Yeah.
hungover, I care more about things I shouldn't care about than if I'm, fresh as a daisy and don't give a shit. So,
Well, one year again, I just want to thank our audience for listening and subscribing, and please continue to give us great feedback. Let's discuss the opportunities that are ahead. I mean, I've talked about increasing our audience 10x. Rob, you made a great point. Every one of you, if you could tell 10 of your friends about our show, I mean, we would be forever grateful. We're also, as Rob said, we've hired a consulting firm. We're going to push advertising of the show and increase the amount of eyeballs and ears that listen to it. And that will help us. The more people we have listening, the more money we begin to have come in from advertisers, the more incredible content we can bring to you. And I want to thank our first sponsor of the show, Lang Financial out of Parkersburg, West Virginia, Casey Lang. If you haven't listened to the episode with Casey Lang, I encourage you to go listen to it. If you're somebody that's looking for top-notch financial planning and wealth management, call 304-973-PLAN. That's 304-973-PLAN, and we're just very appreciative of Casey. Some of the things that are on the horizon for this year, we have the first annual G&P Cup.
yeah.
Republicans versus Democrats. I think this can develop into something really great, and I think it'll get attention. I think there's going to be a lot of people that didn't get invited on this trip, not necessarily because they're bad people or we
Yeah.
just had a limited amount of people that we can take to the venue. But we'll be playing in August at Grable in Maxwell, Nebraska. I mean, you got to be committed to go to Maxwell, Nebraska, in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
to play at this top-notch golf course.
I was out there last year and we flew into Denver and played golf in Denver. And then it was like over a 5-hour drive through, like, people say the middle of nowhere. Like, this is 12 exits beyond the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, we were on this cow path, literal cow path, for, at least an hour and a half. And at one point, the car's fishtailing because it's just a sandy road. There's no concrete underneath it. So you're fishtailing pitch black at night. And one of our phones finally worked. And T-Mobile, by the way, a majority group client. Thank you, T-Mobile. Started to work. And I called the clubhouse late at night and I said, look, we've been on this road for almost an hour. I think we're lost. And the lady just casually said, oh, no. Just keep going another 45 minutes. He's like,
Another 40.
just go another 45 minutes. He's like, you'll end up here. And I'll be damned if we didn't. I mean, we could have been on the moon for all I knew. But the golf out there in the Nebraska Sandhills is one of the most special places on earth. I mean, the natural terrain, the Sandhills course by Core and Crenshaw opened in 1995. And that was the proof of concept that if you build great golf, people will travel to come play it no matter where it is. That's what
We're living proof of this, right?
yeah, that's what inspired construction, Abandoned Dunes, Stream Song, and all sorts of other of the great courses over the last 20 years that have
Two
been
other
built
places that are in the middle of nowhere.
that are in the middle of nowhere because, if you have great golf. And when they interviewed Core and Crenshaw, they said, we came up with like 230 great golf holes and had to narrow it down to the best 18.
Wow.
And Grable, I've not played it yet. Matt and I are both fortunately members. It looks to be spectacular. And I think that really for tournaments like the first MG Cup, there were 8 of us. And now we had 60 people for dinner last year
Right.
and 48 playing. So I think really you develop proof of concept. The people who come the first year want to keep coming. And then people that weren't there see it on Instagram
Yep.
and then they want to come, the next year and it grows. But I think it's something that eventually I know I'd like to eventually do in DC and get Republican and Democratic members of Congress
Yes.
to play so that, the important thing is I think people who golf together tend to be more likely to reach agreements and have deals. Our conversations in the car from the golf course to the hotel or home are a lot more civil than sometimes our arguments on
On the podcast.
on the podcast. But, we used to say golfers make the best deals in Congress, and they used to play together a lot more. That's changed. Some of that's just
Well,
because
part of
their
it is
schedules.
our audience actually prefers it when we're at each other's throats than when we have agreement. And because I know you get pushback and I get pushback if we come across as too
Yeah.
deferential. Like they want us punching each other in the throat.
Well,
So
yeah, I mean, Matt will get his buddies or Republicans watching that say, "Oh, I can't believe you let Rob get away with that." And I'll have Democrats say, "Oh, I can't believe you would ever put Social Security and Medicare on the table." Or, why didn't you say this? Or why didn't you say that? And the truth is that, nobody gets everything they want.
no.
Like, they don't. And that's the way the system's set up. And so what happens in politics is that eventually you have to put a deal together and trust that the other person is going to live up to their end of the bargain. And one of the ways to build trust is to spend time together. And as we've said 1,000 times, there's no better way to spend time together to build trust than golf,
Right.
because you can quickly tell if the person's an asshole or not, if they cheat, if they're a prick, if they have a bad temper. You can find all these things out in 4 hours, oftentimes in 4 holes. So I think what we're trying to do here long term is figure out a way to get both sides to the table and, be able to accept getting something and giving up something.
I think too, our hope for these matches and just to lay the foundation so you guys know what the matches will be. We're all going to arrive early on Sunday morning. Some of us will be up in that area Friday and Saturday playing some other courses. And then Sunday morning we'll arrive at the club and Sunday afternoon will be our first matches. And we're not sure what format we're doing quite yet on the Sunday. Then Monday we'll play 36 holes. And it's most likely that the morning rounds will be best ball, 2-man teams, just like the Ryder Cup. And the afternoon matches will be alternate shot, just like the Ryder Cup. And then one thing we know for sure is that Tuesday morning will be our singles matches, and then we'll have a lunch and awards and head home. But it should be an unbelievable time, and I think we have a good team. So we have players on each team that kind of match. We have good matchups.
Yeah.
I think which will be good because we didn't want to make this a handicap fest where initially we were each going to have one really high handicapper on our team, and that was kind of the goal. And then the one person I invited that couldn't make it, he was the high handicap.
Who's that?
Guy from Oklahoma, who I love playing with, and he's a great high handicapper because he makes birdies.
Yeah.
But he's like 18 because he also hits a lot of shots out of bounds. So you never know what you're going to get with him. But yeah, I don't think any of our players are more than a single digit. So it should be a really solid way to match people up and have very competitive matches. And again, our big goal is that we can sit around and have beers afterwards or have dinner together and have some vicious arguments and compete hard on the golf course, but still like and respect each other after. And it will not demonize each other. Just because we have a difference of opinion on policy issues should not be a reason to demonize somebody. And I think, like you said, golf will help bring folks together there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Another thing on the agenda for this year is that, and we're still brainstorming this, but we are going to have an opportunity for anybody that works in politics, whether you're an elected official a lobbyist, a campaign consultant, a Hill staffer, work for a trade association, if you're involved in this massive industry we call politics, and you play golf, we are going to track you. And we're hoping that people voluntarily come and sign up on our website, and we'll be rolling this out over the next month. But there will be people that never listen to our podcast, but we know they play golf, and we're going to track that. And we are going to, Golf Digest has done this in the past, where they track the 100 best golfers in politics.
Mhm.
It's only Capitol Hill that they really ever focus on. It's not.
Well, they do lobbyists.
Lobbyists
yeah,
that do,
in White House, but
in
like
White
they don't
House.
do outside DC.
We're going to do
Yeah.
as many folks as we can. And there'll be a minimum amount of rounds that you have to post to be eligible. But we're going to track that and name this. We're hoping to name it after somebody that used golf to bring people together and did deals on the golf course. And so more to come on that. But I think that'll be a really fun way that can help us spark more interest for the podcast and also get some national attention probably for awarding the best golfer in politics.
I was ranked I was ranked second on the 2016 Golf Digest list for politics.
Second to your client, right?
Second to my client, which was great because the last thing I wanted to do was be ranked first, which is not a good look when you have a client that wants to be number one. So no, it's I think it'll be really cool and get people engaged and playing more golf and hopefully playing more golf with each other.
We also have, much to Jordan's chagrin, because Jordan's doing the bulk of the work on this, and him and I had a call about this morning. I think he's a little stressed about it, but we're going to be issuing our first magazine within the next month. Finishing touches are being put on it, and Rob and I will be making our final edits, and looking forward to that. I think this will be another way that we can have something to promote the show, and also it's great. Some of the great guests we had, we're going to be able to highlight those incredible episodes, and we've turned them into articles. So I think it's going to be a great magazine. Also, the thing that people should look forward to reading in the magazine is Rob's 2024 year in review.
Yeah.
Because it was absolutely epic. I mean, it was so epic, we had to do it into 2 episodes. I think Rob missed Christmas Eve because it went so long as when we were recording it.
Yeah, it was, I was definitely late for Christmas Eve dinner, but it was worth it to talk about a great year. And as far as the magazine goes, Matt and I are still debating which one of us gets to be the centerfold. I think you spend more time in the
I think we just
gym,
make Casey
but
the centerfold since he's sponsoring it.
we'll make Casey the centerfold, and we'll have him put it together as a special section of how the market losing $10 trillion in 3 days.
We're going to get to that.
In
We're
three-
going to
in
get
3
to that.
days is good for us. But
Before
I look
we
forward
get
to
to the political topic of the day, the last thing I want to mention for what's coming for 2024 or 2025, excuse me, and beyond, is we're going to do more on-course content. Look, one of the issues with doing on-course content is it's an expense. Flying in production people to where we go is not cheap, which is one of the reasons most of the on-course content's been with me, just unable to get our production crew to DC or to you, these places. But I know Jordan's going to be coming out and spending a couple of days with you in the summer in June, and we'll get some on-course content there. We're doing some on-course content at the end of this month when Rob comes to Oklahoma. And we've started the Parker Improvement Project. We're 1 week, not even 1 week into it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to say about yesterday? I mean, I think I had a huge breakthrough yesterday on something on the golf course. I mean, I started with a bogey and a triple bogey, and then my third hole, the tee shot I hit it 315 yards, but it was off the planet left, and somehow recovered and made a birdie on that hole and proceeded to make 2 more birdies. And I felt like I kept a good mindset. Even though I made a triple bogey, I didn't get all down on myself, and
I
bounced back.
I thought you played great. I thought 3 birdies at RTJ in 15 holes.
I had 4. I had 4 birdies.
4 birdies in 15 holes is awesome.
Well, the one birdie I made, I had no pressure. We number 16, par 3. We're in the middle of a really tight match. We're down 1. Rob and I both hit the green. You had like a 25-foot putt, maybe 30-foot putt. Putt with a lot of break, and it just rolled right in the hole. Incredible. So my 11-footer had no pressure at that point. I just jammed it in the back of the hole.
No, we ended up tying a really good team. My buddies Dominic Hersman and Bill Folkerth. I think between them, they probably had 5 birdies. I don't know.
I think I added it up for 15 holes. If we were playing 4-man best ball, I think we would have been 9 under par.
Yeah, I mean
it was incredible. The back and forth. It was just a birdie fest out there. Because I think you made 2 birdies. I think Dom made 2, Bill made 4 or 5, and I made 4. So it was, yeah.
I thought you played great, and I think there's a lot to be proud of and a lot of progress, and I think that there's some stuff to build on. I mean, mostly it's just consistency. Just
Face control and consistency off the tee. I'll get there.
Figuring out a way to take double or other off the table.
Yeah.
And because you're making enough pars and birdies to put together scratch golf, the key is just getting rid of those big numbers and maybe turning a few more bogeys into pars here and there. But no, that's there.
I think I'm on track.
That's there.
Well, the truth is, we won't belabor this issue too long, because we have other meetings and then another guest that we're going to interview later on today. But the issue of the day is obviously tariffs. And Dom and Bill said yesterday that we should have just had the cameras rolling at breakfast. First thing in the morning, I've only had 1 cup of coffee at this point, and I mean, we just got into it right there at the breakfast table at RTJ, and it was a good back and forth. And we talked even more about it on the way home last night. But I mean, obviously, this is a major political issue facing anybody that has money in the stock market. You're paying attention to this issue. So I mean,
particularly people.
You have the floor here. I mean, how do you view this? And
well, I've lost a lot of money in the last week. I have the benefit of no plans of retiring soon.
You've lost money on paper.
Well, I've lost money. It's not lost money on paper until I sell, but it's lost money until it comes back. So there's a $10 trillion hole in 3 days, and we're about to be in officially a bear market. And pretty much every major Wall Street firm is elevating their predictions of recession up to 60%.
Just since we sat down to record this episode, though, it's back to almost even for the day. It's only down 87 points.
Oh, great.
So just for the record, this thing's going to fluctuate quite a bit, I think.
Great. Yeah. Well, the bottom line is, for people that are nearing retirement, it is dramatic, because the fix to this is going to take time. And when you're trying to completely restructure the largest economy in the world, and by virtue of pressure, force the second and third largest economies of the world, like trying to get the EU to eliminate a 19% VAT tax, they're not going to do that. Trying to get China to become a purchasing country instead of a selling country, they can't do that. Their people are too poor. It's not a purchasing country, it's a manufacturing country. And in the math that the Trump administration is using, they conveniently leave out that overall, the United States has a trade surplus, not a trade deficit, a trade surplus, because they're completely and conveniently leaving out that we are a service economy and our largest export is servicing. And we have overall a $1.8 trillion annual trade surplus. When you isolate it to Schwinn bicycles and parts to make an iPhone or parts to, make a car, then yes, but we made that decision years ago that, we were going to prioritize. Now, if our goal was just to increase domestic manufacturing in Ohio and Michigan, Wisconsin, etc., then great. But you do that over a 3 to 5 year, 10-year period through tax incentives, through direct government investment, and yes, direct negotiation with other countries that are competing in that area to get a better trade deal in the long run. My argument is that, whether you like tariffs or you hate them, the president says tariff is the most beautiful word in the English language. They are a tax. They're a tax either on the consumer or on the business. And so if you're going to implement that, it's hard to implement a huge tariff policy when you also have an income tax system at the state and federal level. It's hard to say, we're going to have to make every car here in the United States when it's going to take 5 years to build new plants and train workers and actually get that working. In the meantime, like Elon Musk says, it's a mistake because you're going to have to go, if parts into something that I'm producing go up by 35%, then I'm going to have to either raise my prices or go back to everybody else that I've made a deal with and try to renegotiate that deal. And they don't have to say yes. So at the end of the day, either the producer eats the cost or the consumer eats the cost. We know this. This is nothing new. We tried the Smoot-Hawley tariffs in the United States in the 1920s. India tried to close off its borders to everybody and build everything domestically. And they found out very quickly what happened. They lost a lot of their best and brightest talent overseas to the United States because we welcomed them in. We have 4% of the world's population and control 50% of its wealth. I personally think, and the markets agree, that it is a mistake to close off our borders to the movement of goods and people and everything else. And I know what you're going to say. We've got to secure our borders. We got to secure. No shit. Nobody with half a brain disagrees that we need to have immigration laws, that we need to enforce them. Nobody disagrees that we don't want people dumping products into our country that we don't know about and that are affecting our markets, and that we have to have agreements and deals. The question is, do you do it all on one day in one press conference with one signature and force it on the entire world, 180 countries, all at once? There's no way they expected the stock market to react the way that it is. I'm not surprised. I think it's a mistake. I'll be the first one to say, if the markets end up in the positive this year somehow, and 180 countries come and renegotiate tariffs in our favor, then I'll be the first one to say, the president was right.
Mark those words right now.
But I'm not going to have
Jordan timestamp this.
But I'm not going to have to, because
Well,
it's ludicrous and it's asinine, and everyone who hasn't sniffed Donald Trump's jockstrap this morning,
here we go.
everyone that hasn't drank the Kool-Aid knows it. And these aren't, I heard MAGA people this weekend saying, "Oh, the woke stock market. They're just too emotional." I mean, are you?
No, Warren Buffett said that. Warren Buffett said people are too emotional in the stock market. If you're going to be emotional about ups and downs in the stock, I mean, nobody got this emotional when the stock market tanked during the Biden administration. Your side wasn't.
Nothing tanked in the Biden administration because of Joe Biden's press conference. This one is 100%.
I get that, but here's all I'm going to say about this, and I'll be the first to admit if this is totally wrong and turns out to be the greatest disaster of all time. I'll admit that as well. I think that there's a lot of things at play here. I think that you're seeing a reshuffling of the decks, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things, like our debt has come to such a terrible place that we have to think of ways. We can't tax our way out of this problem that we've got ourselves into.
Nor can we just slash spending our way.
I don't think you can either. I don't think so either. I think you can slash some. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can slash all. You can slash some. So you with that going on, I think all these trade deals need to be renegotiated, and the United States has to get the best deal for us. And I know what you're going to say is, no, we need to be the world's leader. And I think that is kind of I think that is coming to an end. I don't believe that we're sitting there going to be somebody that's taking care of other countries until we get our own house in order. I don't think that we can continue to be the country that comes to everybody else's aid while we're trillions upon trillions of dollars into debt, but mortgaging our children's future.
But I think
we have to have everything on the table. I also believe that these are negotiating tools. This is a negotiating tactic. He's doing something radical to bring people to the table to make decisions, because look, everyone says it's just a tax on us. If it's just a tax on us, why do other countries care if we put a tariff on their goods?
What he's doing and what you are arguing for is for one person to direct markets the way the Soviet Union used to. This is market manipulation. And it's there's my argument, with all due respect, I think it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what trade is. just because you have a trade deficit with another country in another area does not mean we're getting ripped off.
No, it means, but
It means we're purchasing something that we want. These are consumers, not the country. This isn't the United States of America purchasing more from Vietnam than what Vietnam's purchasing
I
from
get
us.
that. I'm not arguing
These are
that. I'm not arguing that.
These are individual businesses and consumers buying something for a cheaper cost than what it would cost to build here. And
That's not the whole story. Let's just use one example. Why is it that a dairy farmer in upstate New York cannot sell milk and cheese in Quebec?
scale.
No, it's illegal. They have a ban on the U.S. selling dairy there. So these are examples that Trump is pointing to be like, hey, what's good for you is going to be good for us. We're going to retaliate with tariffs. Now, I know you're going to argue, well, some of the calculations they used for the retaliatory numbers are wrong, and maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. But from a fundamental principle standpoint, like, I don't want to be lectured by Canada about our trade policies when they won't even allow our dairy producers to sell
Canada
dairy.
also supplies energy to 3 of our states, Michigan, New York, directly. And Canada is also the largest purchaser of our paper. And if Donald Trump wants to...
Which a lot of our paper's not even produced in the United States.
No.
that
I mean paper as in bonds.
Oh, bond, okay.
As in our debt.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's true. Okay.
The part that you're not covering is that the president is proposing a $10 trillion increase to the national debt. They want to raise the debt ceiling.
You're not accounting for cuts. You're not accounting for increased revenues from things like tariffs.
That is. The president himself has informed Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson, whether they do it in one fell swoop or in two, and they're going to do it in two $4.5 trillion increases and the second one will have to be bigger, of the debt ceiling. They didn't pick that number out of the sky because they know when they pass the tax cuts and the spending increases they have in place, even accounting for all of the Doge, we can argue over if it's actually doing anything or not. It's not. They are predicting that the national debt will hit 46 to 47 trillion by February of 2029. So you can look at all the Doge you want. That's their own projections. And so they need to sell. They need to sell $10 trillion worth of bonds on the open market. And the largest purchases of that are Canada, China, Japan, and Mexico, and the EU. That's who's going to buy it. Now, what happens if they decide they don't? What happens if they decide they no longer want to buy U.S. bonds or securities? They no longer want to buy T-bills. Okay? Then we're broke because we can't even issue debt. Then we need to print money to service what we have.
It'll be inflation.
And you have rampant inflation.
But I don't think it's going to get to that.
I think we have it. The president of the United States, and however you want to look at this, he has declared war on 180 countries. That's how they take it. This is 180 at the same time. 180 countries.
How many of those 180 have already come to the table and we've already eliminated the tariff? Multiple. I know you'll say tiny country. That was over the weekend.
Tiny little shit.
But we don't even know what's been going on while we're sitting here recording this podcast. Things are moving at a rapid pace.
Right before we started this, the president said he's going to hit China with another 50% tariff increase.
Do you know how much?
50% on top of the 35%.
He hit them with tariffs
he's already
during
done.
his first administration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And everyone said it was such a big tax on consumers. Do you know what percentage increase there was on Chinese goods in our country to the consumer? Less than 1%.
This is different. This is not. That was 10%.
But does anybody? But do you also remember how bad things were in 2020, 2021 with supply chain?
This is 85%. This is a different story. And
I understand. But think about you want to talk about tariffs.
And that was involving a global pandemic. This is just out of the blue.
You don't think there's going to be another global pandemic at some point? You don't think that was a once issue? I mean,
yeah, with
Anthony Fauci's out there saying there's going to be another pandemic.
With RFK Jr. in charge, I think we're going to have some nasty pandemics.
Oh, here we go.
I think the return. I think make chicken pox great again.
Oh, here we go.
Make measles great again. Make polio great again.
Oh,
but the bottom line is, Matt bringing up that oh, Vietnam has come back to the table. That's like George W. Bush saying, Estonia has joined the coalition of the willing
Okay.
in Iraq. Let me know when a big country that matters
It could
comes
happen.
to the
It could be
table.
happening right now as we have this podcast. That's how fast things
The
are going to
bottom
move.
here's
Trump
the
doesn't sit around and wait for things to happen. He makes things happen.
here's the bottom line. On my argument, you can see $10 trillion in market value has evaporated. On his side, to believe Matt, you have to believe that one orange man in the White House is smarter than all of Wall Street, every other president
There's plenty of people on
the
Wall Street that are
planet,
supporting what he's doing.
the vast majority of economists. I mean, even Ted Cruz. I mean,
You know things are bad when you have to point to Ted
like
Cruz, who you
Lion,
disdain.
Lion Ted, even Lion Ted has come out. He wouldn't even criticize Donald Trump when Donald Trump called his wife ugly and said that his father shot JFK. Like, give me a break. What a bunch of bullshit. Like, to believe that Donald Trump is the only truth teller and everybody else is lying. Everybody
That's
else
not
is
everybody
lying.
else. There's plenty.
You're in a cult.
No.
You're in a MAGA
You're
cult
already seeing gas prices are going down, interest rates are falling.
because everyone's broke. Because you're throwing us into a recession
It's
on
not
purpose.
that's just
throwing
not
us
true.
into a recession.
You're seeing massive foreign investment coming into the country.
It is Depression Dawn. Let's mark that down. Depression
Look,
Dawn.
this is all timestamp. Like
Lion
raw
Ted
right
and-
here, April. What is the April 5th, 6th? What is it? 6th? I can't remember what.
I predict that the stock market will be down for the year.
It's April 7th.
That we will be in a recession, and that the national debt and the deficit will be larger this year than it was at any point under any Democrat.
And I predict by the 4th of July that you're going to see some incredible free trade happening between countries and tariffs being dropped on both sides. And I think you're going to see the economy roaring, and the stock market will correct.
Well, yeah, that's an easy prediction. Like, yeah, we might have a better trade deal with Suriname.
I think you're going to see
New Guinea. But
I think you're going to see massive deals with people like the EU.
Let's see what it is with the EU,
Hey.
and let's see what it is with Canada, and let's see what it is with China, because this is different. This isn't a pandemic. This isn't a global financial crisis. This is one orange man doing one press conference and attacking 180
He campaigned
countries
on this. This is
Oh no, that's one thing I'll give him credit for. And that's why
everybody should have known this was coming.
For 40 years, Donald Trump has been talking about unfair trade deals and us getting ripped off. So I'll give Matt credit on this. Matt knew that he was going to do this, and Matt supported it, and Matt voted for it. The people I want to point out to are all those Mitt Romney Republicans, all those moderate Republicans, all those
most of those people are Democrats already.
All those people who voted for Donald Trump because they thought, oh, he's not really going to do that.
I guarantee Mitt Romney didn't vote for Donald Trump.
But all there are a lot of Republicans who held their nose and voted for Donald Trump because they thought, well, he'll cut my taxes, he'll do some deregulation, and he's not going to do all that trade and immigration stuff. He's not going to do that. He's just bluffing. Bullshit, he's bluffing. At least Donald Trump did what he said he was going to do.
That's right.
But it's wrong.
Well,
it is mercantilist 18th, 17th century economics. It has been disproven everywhere it's been tried. And one person cannot self-direct market activity better than market demand.
The nice thing is we're going to be able to see who's right and who's wrong on this as time goes on.
I have no doubt. I am not in the slightest bit. Look,
I'm not either. So there we go. We're both confident. We're both confident in our position.
And just so you know, it is in my financial interest for him to be right.
Yeah.
I don't want to have another week like this last week. I can't have too many more weeks like this last week. I pray that Donald Trump and Matthew Parker are aware of a financial and economic system that is better than supply and demand and free market.
That's not. But
I am hoping you're right.
I am an economics major trained by Milton Friedman disciples, and so I went through years of college of learning economics, and I will tell you this: like economic theory of supply and demand and free markets makes a lot of sense when markets are actually free. You and I both know that markets aren't actually free. There is all kinds of factors that add into,
and now they're definitely
these deals.
not.
Well, especially when we're being tariffed, but the minute we retaliate with an equal tariff, is not
because we are
not the wrong thing to do.
We America.
It will lead to getting rid of those tariffs when we actually negotiate these things with some balls instead of just giving everybody else what they want.
Yeah, everything with Trump is about balls. They're
there we
obsessed
go.
with balls.
I knew I should have said that the
can't-
moment it came out of my mouth. I knew it.
Well, they're in your mouth.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
You
Here we
can't get
go.
them off your chin. This guy, I have a degree from economics as well, and I will tell you that when it comes to international trade and movement of people, the largest beneficiary in the world is the United States of America, by far.
Just answer me this one question before we move on to something more fun.
This is fun. I want to stay on this for another hour.
But we don't have another hour.
I want to stay. Let's
just
2
answer
hours.
me this one question. Why is it okay if tariffs are so bad? Why is it okay for us to accept tariffs from other countries?
If tariffs are so bad, because we're winning. I don't give a shit. It's still cheaper to buy their goods than it is. Like Vietnam is never going to be shifting.
It really was. It was really cheaper in 2020 and 2021 when we had no supply chain here in this country, and literally was part of the reason for the increased inflation. I mean, we couldn't get medicine. We couldn't get, like, I'm in the printing business. I'm in the direct mail business. We could not get paper. Like, there's a reason we should manufacture more things in the United States than shipping it all overseas.
Or you could have better international planning and working with allies, of which we have fewer allies today than we did 2 months ago, where you plan and coordinate for global pandemics in advance on supply and on other issues. The last one caught us as a surprise, and Trump's handling of the COVID pandemic was a global embarrassment. And a lot of the supply chain issues some of them were understandable and fair. Others were from his own mismanagement and incompetence. And I think you plan for those in advance going forward. You don't fire and close the Office of Infectious Diseases. You don't withdraw from the World Health Organization. You don't withdraw from NATO. You don't alienate all of your allies.
The laundry list of things to debate are growing, and the amount of time we have today is shrinking.
Because we live in a global community, and what Donald Trump is trying to do is put the is to put the genie back in the bottle, and to go back.
I would agree with that.
And to go back to 1850s.
I don't think he's going to go back to 1850s. I think that things are transitioning to a different phase. Globalization, I believe, is dead. I believe it's dead.
Globalization will continue without the United States being the leader of it. Globalization, these deals are not going to stop.
I think it's going to be interesting to see if that's the case. I mean, we've already seen signs of that in Europe.
I'm not willing to risk
where the Great Britain left the EU.
I'm not willing to risk your little experiment with all of our money, because China is just going to continue globalization with the EU. Canada is going to continue globalization with Mexico and everybody else, and they're going to work around us, and it's going to make everybody a little bit poorer. Not having us driving the engine because of our market capacity. And I think that it's a mistake. Like, if you look, I was just in Japan and South Korea and China. The reason why they're declining is because they have too much command and control at their domestic government level, and because they're sealing themselves off too much from immigration. It's really hard to emigrate to Japan, China, or South Korea. As a result, their country's becoming too old. It's an upside down Christmas tree with old people.
But I think you and I would agree that and I think Trump agrees, we need more immigration in this country, but it needs to be legal, and we need to be attracting the right people.
This is the problem. Trump's solution to more immigration is less immigration. His solution to more trade is less trade. His solution to reducing the deficit is to blow a hole in it and make it bigger.
I think that's where I think we would continue to disagree.
Where
I literally have to do another meeting, so we need to go.
Yeah.
But there's plenty more for us to talk about.
We're gonna score year 1 to Ellsworth.
Here we go.
Year 1 to Ellsworth, and I'm gonna make our closing deal. We're gonna make a deal here right now.
All right.
I think part of the Matthew Parker project in golf, to get you to be a scratch golfer, is to set a clear benchmark.
All right.
And I think the first clear benchmark is that the final singles match at the Golf and Politics Cup should be Ellsworth versus Parker, no strokes.
Done. Deal. Absolute deal. Absolute deal. I look forward to that.
Yep.
All right. Last thing for the show today, though. The Masters is this week. And I tell you what, yesterday we were playing golf and I'm looking at Rob's head cover, and he has this head cover that just says ANGC, and this just great logo. In fact, I don't know if you have something sitting around with that logo, but it's so classy. And I'm like, Rob, that is the ultimate flex right there. I mean, yeah, and his head cover's got that logo. I bet you there's a lot of our listeners that don't even know what that logo is if they
Yeah.
saw the head cover. And I mean, the Masters is the most special week of the year. It's always been my favorite tournament. What's your number one greatest Masters memory?
Oh, it's a competition for me between Tiger hugging Earl Woods after winning the 97 Masters and then hugging Charlie after the 2019 Masters. Just sort of the bookend of, the 97 Masters. I was just getting into golf, and that really cemented for me, like, just loving the game and wanting to be involved in it. And then the 2019 Masters was just a different point in my life, approaching 40. At the time I was going through chemo and was homesick and watching the Masters, and it was the ultimate thing to like cheer me up.
Yeah.
And watching that Sunday, I would put the 2019 Masters, I think winning it in your 40s,
So it's special.
after all the things he's been through, was a bigger deal than winning it when you're 21 and at perfect health. And, the 2019 Masters would be, that Sunday is just special.
My favorite memory is actually 1998. Because Jack Nicklaus was 58 years old. And I was playing golf at Woodview Golf Course. And I came in, if you remember Woodview, number 4, you come past the clubhouse to go to number 5.
Mm-hmm.
And stopped in the clubhouse and saw that Jack was in serious contention on the back 9 on Sunday. And we stopped playing golf to watch Jack Nicklaus. Now, he didn't come through and win, but like, what an accomplishment. Kind of similar to Watson competing in the British Open years later. Like, that was dramatic. I honestly believe that this year Mickelson can compete. Like, his game right now is dialed in. Like, I know he's playing on live and you can have that debate, whatever, but like, the dude's been working on his game. He's in the best health of his life. He's not hitting it as far, and he's quit trying to like overpower a golf swing, and he is playing within himself. He would have won the live event. Did you see what happened to him at the Row?
I didn't see it.
He was 25 yards off the green. He made a perfect pitch, and it hit the flagstick and ricocheted off the flagstick into the water for a penalty. And he came in 6th place. Like, he lost by two or three strokes. Like, crazy bad luck.
There was a really interesting story in Golf Digest. I just saw it on Instagram, where lefties have an advantage at Augusta because you need to work the ball right to left. And with modern equipment changes, it's easy to hit a consistent cut.
Right.
It's hard to draw the ball.
Bubba won there twice
with modern equipment. And 30% of Masters champions have been left-handed. It's less than 4% for the U.S. Open.
Wow.
So yeah, absolutely. And I think with Phil, the other thing that people forget is how important in golf it is to maintain flexibility and mobility. And I think Phil's focus on becoming healthier over the last 10 years has prolonged his career. And I think it's also important to note, and it's something that I'm trying to work on, is those guys that have the long flowing swings have longer careers. There's a shelf life to the shorter swing.
Right.
Because all of our swings get shorter over time. So one of the things I'm actually working on now is just trying to improve my flexibility.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to prolong your career and make you relevant longer. And Phil's a perfect example of that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Phil won or if he's even in contention, because, you look at all those years Freddie Couples had, a great showing. Bernard Longer.
This is Bernard. There's a lot of great storylines this week. This is Longer's last Masters, which is just what a career he's had. Angel Cabrera is back at Augusta. He won on the Champions Tour yesterday. Did you know? I think it was his first ever Champions Tour event. He won by 3 strokes.
What did he go to jail for? Didn't he like beat up a woman or
Yeah,
something?
I think it was domestic. I can't remember,
Well, you
honestly.
guys could always run him for president in 2028.
Here we
I
go.
think he'd
All
be a
right.
great Republican nominee for president.
So you got Angel Cabrera coming back. You've got Bryson with his new driver who hits it right to left. And you've got Rory in the best form he's been in coming in the Masters in years. You got Justin Thomas in great form again. Scotty has been struggling a little bit, although his struggling is still finishing in the top 10. So, like, I think it's wide open. I'm picking Bryson. You're picking Rory. We want you to pick. We want to hear about some of your favorite memories. I think I know other memories. Remember Bubba Watson getting interviewed and he just got all choked up. I never got this far in my dreams. I didn't even know how to answer Jim Nance's questions. Like, that's what's cool about the Masters. I don't care who it is that wins. That interview in Butler Cabin is the greatest moment in sports every year. And I don't think there's anything that's even close to it. Like,
I think that his win was really cool. Another cool story this week that was just reported this morning is that Jim Nance is showing up late to Augusta
because Houston's playing tonight for the national
to,
title.
to go see
And Freddie
Houston,
Couples is with them. They're together.
to go see Houston play in the national
Which, by the way, was
championship.
one of the best basketball games I've ever seen in the Final Four. I mean, the
who-
resilience of Houston to stay in that game.
I love to see Duke lose. I mean, it's been a bad week for Duke between losing that and then having the dad on White Lotus, who's always wearing the Duke shirt, almost try to kill his family
Oh, jeez.
last night. I don't want to give any more spoilers, but it's a bad week for Duke, and it's a bad week for all the alumna and alumni of Duke University who are universally the worst people on earth.
We don't need to alienate our Duke. We need you to listen, and we need you to participate in the Masters contest. Go to our website, golfandpolitics.com. Right when you go to the website, it'll pop up. Pick your winner, give us your email address, and you'll be entered in a drawing. If you pick the winner, you're probably going to win a dozen Titleist Pro V1s of your choice. We got Pro V1, Pro V1X, Pro V1X left dash with the Golf and Politics logo. And I think multiple people have already picked Scotty, multiple people have picked Bryson. And if that's the case, if one of those guys wins, we will draw a name to win a dozen Titleist with a $70 value.
And a fun fact, if on the 10th hole they show footage of where Rory McIlroy hit his infamous duck hook down the left side of the fairway, when they pan over there, you'll see a cottage. That cottage is where I stayed when I played at Augusta National. So you can think of me waking up in the morning with my coffee and just soaking in the heavenly environment.
And you hit the fairway on that hole when they played it, right?
I hit the fairway. I put it in the green side bunker to the right. I hit the bunker shot to 8 or 9 feet and made the par.
Incredible.
But watch the Masters. Hopefully Rory doesn't let me down 10 years in a row. I pick him every year, and I'm sticking with him just because I want to see him complete the career Grand Slam.
I picked Bryson every time last year until he finally won the U.S. Open, but I just think that course sets up well for him. An event, and I know he gets a lot of flack for years ago when he said it's a par 67 to me, and then he struggled for years. The truth is, if his game's in form, he should do well at Augusta. I mean, he's got to dial in the wedges, and last year his putting completely fell apart on Saturday. I think he would have won. But hey, compete in the contest with us. Thanks for listening. Have an awesome day.